Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sandy Jones Show with me, Sandy Jones, and today we're here to talk about the breaking news. Pretty mental, the timing of it, the whole hullabaloo around this news that Mauricio Pochettino is no longer the manager of Chelsea. So before we get into this video and discuss Pochettino, whether it's the right decision to get rid of him, whether the timing was correct, whether the way it was done was correct, some reasoning behind why perhaps it was done, also a look at some of the candidates who could replace him in the job. Before we get into all of that, I just want to say thank you very much, as always, to the subscribers of this channel. Thank you very much for getting involved and liking the videos, subscribing, watching the content as it comes out. There's going to be loads more to come. I know that we're already through a season, but look at what's happened just a few days after the season's ended. And I can imagine that there's going to be a lot more stuff to talk about to do with Chelsea football in general over the summer. And on top of that, I'm in Germany for the Euros, in Berlin, in the fan zones and everything. So please stay tuned for all of that. So here we are. Pochettino's been sacked. How do I feel about it, generally speaking? To be honest, if I compare how I feel with the vast majority of what I've seen in terms of reaction, this happened yesterday, about 24 hours ago. And since then, there's been loads of discussion back and forth. If you can hear it scratching and so on, the cats are having a field day behind the camera. They might even make a guest appearance. Who knows? But yes, I think that the general consensus is that it's the wrong decision. And most people who I've seen, the YouTube commentators, plus, journalists, pundits, ex-players, ex-managers, etc., are all mostly aligned with saying that this is a bad decision. And some people go as far to say as them being absolutely livid, angry, confused, that it's a joke, it's a shambles. I've seen very few people say, oh, thank God this has happened, this is a great thing. There are some, don't get me wrong. I certainly don't sit firmly in the first camp, to be honest. I don't think this is an absolute terrible decision and a disgrace. Anyone who's watched the videos so far on this channel will know that I said from the beginning of this channel that I'm not 100% Poch in. I don't think he's the guy that we need to build a dynasty at this club and to get us out of the situation that we were in at the end of last season, finishing 12th. I saw enough in the first 30, let's say 25 to 30 games of this season, just gone, to tell me that he's not the guy. Tactically speaking, emotionally speaking, the way that he carries himself, the way that he seemed so hesitant to build any kind of connection to the fan base. I just never felt the vibes from this guy, and I'll be completely honest. I must say, of course, I would have been wrong to say Poch out the whole way through, especially given the fact that we didn't sack him after so many opportunities where we could have, and then there was a turnaround right at the end of the season. A bunch of wins on the bounce, some really good football, actual, fluid plays, and he seemed to be actually finally getting the best out of the players and using the individual players for the strengths that they have, putting players in the right position, setting up teams with better balance, inverting the fullbacks, not asking Gallagher to play on the wing, not asking Colwill to play at left back, not making senseless substitutions in the 80th minute when the match is already lost or drawn. Being more proactive, all these things that we wanted to see, we started to see them around match 28, 30, 32, 33 out of 38. That says to me that he's perhaps someone that can be backed into a corner and then fight his way out right at the death and perhaps get a cheeky decision, to use like a fighting analogy. But it doesn't say to me that he's someone with this sound, structured process that he claimed to have been in his press conferences. there's a lot of people who seem to be surprised that this has happened, and I don't think I'm that surprised, to be honest. I don't think that I don't think that anything about his body language or the words that he would say after games, especially the last 10 games, suggested to me that he was, in his mind, building something that was going to last even another season, let alone longer than that. I got the impression that he took every possible opportunity where he could have just stayed neutral. Cats are running around, man, it's crazy. Where he could have just stayed neutral or gone into the positive, but he always chose to keep things down, to poo-poo them and to say, oh, I'm not sure. Is this your team? No, it's not my team. It's not my team. What are you talking about? It's like, okay. Do you think that this is going to help you build a connection with the fans? Your big celebrations after the 2-goal comeback against Man U in the last second? No, I'm not a clown. I'm not a clown. They shouldn't like me because of my celebrations. It's like, whoa, almost lost our light. It's like, how can you be so adamant that every single opportunity you get when you're the manager of a football club to show that you're willing to at least build something with the fans and with the folklore and the fan base of the club, especially given the fact that you come having worked at probably the fans' biggest rival. It just seemed nonsensical to me, unless you're in his mindset, which is this isn't going to be forever. This is going to be for a season, if that. And now all of those comments and all of that, rhetoric that he kept saying in his post-match press conferences and the pre-match press conferences makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Like, why would you endear yourself to the fans? Why would you throw olive branches or take the olive branches that are being thrown at you from the journalists who barely ever ask any decent questions, but once in a while give you the opportunity to say, like, yeah, I'm here and this is whatever. Even just to remain neutral in that position, he didn't, and now we can kind of see why. Maybe he saw the writing was on the wall. And having said that, I wouldn't say that I'm against his right as the manager to call out the ownership with certain things that are not correct. Like, I completely get it. If he's had conversations with them and the opportunity to say to them, look, here are the things that I need. I need these kinds of players, or I need, I don't want these players to be in the team. I want to keep these players. And the ownership are saying the exact opposite. Like, no, here's the squad that you've been given. In fact, we're going to give you more inexperience, more, injury-prone players, whatever it is. Then I get it for him coming out and saying that's not okay. Like, fair enough. But at the same time, I never thought that this guy was our guy. And I can't help, I'm in a minority here because from what I've seen over the last 24 hours, I'm in a minority, but I can't help but be somewhat excited that we are no longer managed by Mauricio Pochettino. I know that that's the hot take at the moment, given the last 5 games of the season. And perhaps you could even go back to January, to be honest, where we turned a little bit of a corner. And since then, we improved a lot. But there was so many times, even from January to May, that we dropped points that we should not have been dropping, purely based on tactical decisions and poor use of the players that we have. We have the quality in this squad, I truly believe, to challenge for top 4. And we were this close to it. We were 3 points off it, I think, if I remember correctly. With all, or was it 5? I can't remember. A small number of results going a different way would have meant that we got top 4. And the position that we finished in, our outcome would have been better had the other teams in Europe done better. The English teams that were there. Now, you can't be relying on anyone else's results, and that's why it's important to focus on just what you're doing. And therefore, I just didn't see enough in this season to make me have a full amount of confidence that he could continue this good run of 5 games. Albeit we didn't play that well against Nottingham Forest, and on the last day against Bournemouth, it was like good, not great. So it's like 5 good results, let's say, 3 really good games, 2 decent ones, and 5 great results towards the end that kind of saved the season. And so hard to film a video. And we're back. So I can't help but feel somewhat excited at the prospect of having a new coach at the helm that isn't Mauricio Pochettino, albeit it is a major risk. It would have been a risk to keep him. It is a risk now to try and find someone else. And this is perhaps the one thing I do have on the Poch in side of things, let's say, that we now have essentially to start a slate clean with a new coach. Question 1, who's it going to be? Are we going to go for youth and exciting potential, a la AVB, Andre Villas-Boas, Graham Potter? We know how well those panned out. Are we going to go for a sort of lateral move, like a decent, experienced coach who hasn't won heaps of trophies, but is, at least has some pedigree managing a top club? I don't know, the likes of perhaps De Zerbi, someone of that ilk? Or are we going to try and go, really into someone who's won European Cups, domestic cups at big leagues, managed big personalities, has had a say or not had a say, depending on what they like, on transfers and so on. Like, for example, Thomas Tuchel or Flick. So these are the kind of, I would say that's the 3 different types of coaches that we could go for. And what I wanted to do now is to I've got this little list here of those potential coaches, and just to say a few thoughts on each one. A lot of people are saying this Amorim from Sporting, right? Sporting Lisbon, he's done a really good job for them there. In Portugal, they've improved a lot under him, and they're flying on all cylinders in Portugal. But no real big game experience elsewhere, and really just an exciting young coach that could do well potentially. Obviously, Liverpool were looking at him, so I'd say that's a good sign that he's got some pedigree. But he's not someone that I would pick purely because of that lack of experience managing a big club. And this is, again, a point that I want to make, is like what I would want and what I think we're actually going to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if we went for someone like him, or, for example, Sebastian Hoeneß from Stuttgart, who's taken Stuttgart from a relegated team. They got relegated, they came back up, and then he's brought them all the way up to 2nd in the Bundesliga, behind Leverkusen and in front of Bayern Munich, which is a huge feat. Like, in my opinion, based on Bayern's dominance, that is about as good as, it's almost as good as winning a trophy. It's that level. Was it a fluke? Was it a one-season wonder? Is it just the year that Bayern are not very good? Could be. He's someone that I'm kind of medium on, like, sure, sounds good, let's try it, but I'm not thinking this is going to set the heather on fire. It's a risk. It's a risk. We've got Michel from Girona. Girona's part of the Man City group of teams, so that instantly says to me pedigree, potentially decent choice, because they don't hire bums. They're the best team in the world at the moment, and they're building these dynasties, and they've got presence now in a lot of different leagues, and they wouldn't just hire some nobody to do the job. They're 3rd place behind Real Madrid and Barca. And I've watched them a couple of times, to be honest, not that much, but a couple of times this season, and they play really good football. So maybe, again, I'm sort of medium on that one. Enzo Maresca, who's just brought Leicester to the Premier League. I think this, for me, is a definite no. I hope that this doesn't come to haunt me in the future, especially given the fact that I reckon this is the kind of appointment that the ownership's actually going to make. But we've got Enzo Maresca, and we've got, what was his name? Kieran McKenna, the Ipswich manager, Maresca's just taken Leicester from the Championship back to the Prem, And Ipswich are also now in the Prem. They've just been promoted, but they also got promoted last season to get to the Championship. So that's 2 promotions in a row. Like, don't get me wrong, like, what a feat. Absolutely great for them. You know, both of those teams well deserving of their promotions to the Premier League. But both of those managers completely unproven in the Premier League, haven't managed huge names, haven't dealt with clubs with massive budgets and expectations and so on. So I wouldn't pick either of those two. But this is where my like heart and head situation is. Heart says, let's not do that. Head says the ownership is probably going to do something like that. Go for this again, like young, exciting potential over tried and tested success. A lot like the player strategy, to be honest. So then we've got a couple of others who are a little bit more experienced or have a little bit more, at least, pedigree in terms of who they've managed, what they've achieved. We've got Xavi at Barca. Like, I would absolutely love Xavi to come to Chelsea. If we played a possession-based football with the likes of Enzo in the middle and, you know, the other players who are very comfortable on the ball. Caicedo's good at winning the ball back quickly and spraying passes out. We've got really skillful, tricky wingers. Apparently, we're going to get a new striker and someone to support Jackson up top. And then we've also got, you know, speedy fullbacks and defenders who can play a possession-based game. So someone like Xavi would be good. But would he want to come to this kind of revolving door club? Would he, you know, hello, are you going to join in now and stop screaming? Would he or someone like Flick or someone like, I'll talk about Tuchel separately because obviously there's some history there. But both of like Flick and Xavi, would I want them at the club? Yes, but would they want to come? I'm not sure. But that's what I believe. That's in my heart of hearts. I believe we should be going for something like that. Something a little bit more experienced, someone with a bit more pedigree, someone who's actually won some things or at least competed at the highest level in the Bundesliga or La Liga or the Prem. And that leaves me with the last person who I think would be a great person to bring in if there wasn't this kind of drama and all these caveats around, would be Tuchel. I think it would be great to have him back. I think it was a shame that he got sacked how he got sacked. He won us the Champions League. He's had a terrible season at Bayern, probably their worst season ever, but I don't think that reflects on him completely as a coach. And the only issue there is obviously, is he going to want to come back to the club that sacked him not that long ago with the same management? Will they just run into the same problems that they had before? Probably. So this is, I guess, the theme of the video is head versus heart. Heart would wish for a more experienced coach, someone like Tuchel, someone like Flick, someone like Xavi. But heart says we're actually probably going to go for someone unproven who can learn and grow with the club, like the player strategy. And that would be someone more like Maresca or what's his name, Michel, or you know, I've even seen people saying the Brentford manager, his name's escaping me. You know, just these kind of lower down the table Premier League clubs. You know, a lot of them are getting touted too as the potential guy, and that's not where I would go, but I wouldn't be surprised if the club does it. So that's essentially my thoughts on it. 24 hours after the sacking of Pochettino. Where do we go from here? Who knows? Heart says, let's go for someone that's got a bit of experience and pedigree and knows what they're doing. Head says, that's not what this ownership are going to do. And they'll probably go for someone inexperienced. But to conclude the video, I'm actually not that gutted that we got rid of Pochettino. I don't think the timing of it was great, to be honest. I think it could have happened if we were going to sack him, if we weren't going to build this for a season or at least 2 seasons. We could have sacked him so many other times. You know, I've got the fixtures here from this season. For example, We dropped the 2 points against Arsenal despite winning the game 2-0 and looking really good. We lost at home to Brentford. We had a good run of games then. Then we got absolutely battered at St James's Park in Newcastle in November. We lost at Wolves on Christmas Eve, which was an absolute nightmare of a game. We beat Luton away just because we were 3-0 up and threw away 2 goals towards the end. We lost to Middlesbrough in the Cup. We got absolutely battered at Anfield. We lost at home against Wolves, so that's the double against Wolves. We were very, I would say somewhat fortunate to go through Leeds in the FA Cup. This is all like January, February. All of these moments could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. We drew away to Brentford. We dropped those points against Burnley. We dropped those points against Sheffield United from winning positions. We had a disaster in the Carabao Cup final. I think, sitting back and allowing a team of unproven kids to run rings around us, and we were playing for penalties, and we lost a goal in the last second, like the 5-0 defeat to Arsenal away. There's so many games that he could have been sacked after, and it would have made sense, to be honest, if we were going to sack him, that I'm kind of surprised in a way that he got to the end of the season and then isn't now given the chance to keep going. But hey, that's the ownership. That's the way it is. It feels a little bit Abramovich-esque in a way. So there's a part of me that thinks, hey, I mean, if that's our standard and you don't hit the standard, you don't hit the targets, it doesn't matter how good you were at the end of the season, you're sacked, we'll get someone else in. Like, fine, but they absolutely have to get this right now. The ownership cannot mess around. We can't pick the wrong person. I don't care who it is, as long as if they say that there's this, deep and meaningful research process and we're going to get the right person, it better be the right person, because we really need to hit the ground running. We need to gel this team together. We need to buy a striker. We need to strengthen the left side. We've in my opinion, got to keep hold of the academy graduates who are part of the team, and it would be a mistake to sell them. It's just going to be a complete roller coaster of a summer to see how this all pans out. But I can't wait, and I can't wait to keep making more videos and talking about it with you guys. So there we are. And that's it. That's it for this video. So thank you very much for tuning in. Stay tuned, like and subscribe, all those things. And yep, I'll see you at the next one. Don't forget to stay tuned as well for the Euros content and more updates from the weird and wonderful club that is Chelsea FC. Win or lose, up the Blues. See you next time.